Touch by Claire North. Oh boy, I'm excited about this one. On Goodreads, it got 3.8 out of 5 stars, and I personally give it 8.5 out of 10. It's a good book. In fact, it's one of my favourite books that I've ever read. My actual favourite book, I don't have it with me because a friend's borrowing it, is this one. The First 15 Lives of Harry August. It looks like this. It's really, really, really good. That one got 10 out of 10 stars. It's the only book I've ever given 10 out. So without spoiling it, it's about an entity known as Kepler, who has the ability to jump into other people's bodies. Like whenever she touches someone, she can switch into their body and then like live their life and be that person and have a new body. And it's done so well. It's such an interesting story. She starts to love certain bodies, certain hosts, as she calls them. She doesn't mean them any harm or anything like that, but she starts to love them like lovers. And when one of her hosts, Josephine, is shot dead, she seeks the killer and she seeks the real truth and why this happened, and it leads to a whole I don't want to spoil it. It leads to a whole escapade of things. And honestly, I cannot recommend this book enough. Like, it's such a good book. It's written really well. It's written in a way where, like, it's a difficult thing to write, switching from body to body to body, but it's written in a way where you really understand what's happening and it's quite easy to keep up with. At the same time, it's not overtly easy. It's got a complex storyline behind it, and the backstory is really good. It's just the way it's set out isn't chronologically, as with with Claire North, I've only read the First 15 Lives of Harry August, and that's not set out chronologically either, and neither is this, but it works really, really well. You don't want it to go from A to B, because that's kind of boring in a book. And she goes A to C to D to B to F to Z to that kind of thing. It goes back and forth, and it works really, really, really well without any dates or any needing of time codes or anything like that. It works extraordinarily well. To give you an idea of how much I love this book, this is my notebook. It's my book review notebook. It's where I write all the notes to all the books that I read in it. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, bunch of notes, different books. And whenever I start a book, I start writing in it, and then per page, I write what I thought of it, and then at the end I give an overall view of it. So I didn't write about this. I didn't write about Touch into this book because I'd forgotten the book that I was currently, I think it was American Gods I was reading. I'd forgotten that at work, so I just picked this up, which I'd had my eye on, and I was going to read it after American Gods and that kind of thing. I just picked it up and solidly for the next 2 days just read it, and I didn't write anything down. I didn't even write a title down in my review book, which is weird because I've done that for every other book that I've done. Just because every second that I spent away from this book and writing in this one meant that I didn't get to read this anymore. And I was so disappointed when this ended. Not because of the ending. The ending was a little bit here and there, but it was still a fantastic book. It doesn't degrade the rest of the novel. I was disappointed when it ended because I wanted more of it. Because I wish this story kept going on. And as with the First 15 Lives of Harry August, I wished by the end of it, it felt so real. It felt like it really genuinely could happen. It felt like at some point in my life, say under a moment of stress, like it happens to her when she's being attacked, and then she grabs onto the hand of her killer, and that's the first time she switches into the body of her killer, and she watches her like first body die. It just felt like it could genuinely happen. It felt like if I was in that kind of situation, I could reach out and touch someone, and I could switch into their body, and then that would be my life from then on. I would just switch and switch and switch and switch and switch. Yeah, like honestly, it's really good. If you haven't read it, pause this video, go read it. This is your spoiler warning. Oh boy, this is good. This is really good. I'm assuming that because you're still watching, you're either not going to read it, you don't mind spoilers, or you've already read it. The latter is probably best because it's nice to have a sort of book group type discussion thing. If you do decide to write a comment about any spoilers, please say spoiler at the top of it and then a couple of spaces down so people don't accidentally read it, just out of respect, because having things spoiled isn't nice. The main entity is called Kepler. Kepler is the name that the group of people who are after her kind have given her, and there's Kepler and Galileo. Galileo is the bad guy, basically. The main overarching plot for the story is that Kepler loves Josephine, the body that she is in, and the actual person that Josephine is, agrees to this beforehand. She agrees to give Kepler her body for a bunch of reasons. So Kepler lives in her body for a bit, and then she gets hunted down. She jumps, but then Josephine is still shot dead by Nathan Coyle, which is so interesting. And one of my favourite bits was when she has to take Nathan Coyle's body through airport security, but he's a convict and he doesn't have any. I don't think he's a convict. He's a convict, but he doesn't have any sort of identification or passports or anything like that. So as he's going through, she's in his body. She's in Nathan's body. Kepler is in Nathan's body, and then she jumps into the passport control officer's body for a bit, pretends to look at some documents, and then gives them back to him. And then he moves on. And then a few bodies later, she'll jump into some random person, and the security guard will just have a sort of slight amnesia blink in his memory. But he works a boring job and he wouldn't have noticed, so she just jumps into someone else's body, and then eventually jumps back into Nathan's body and does the same thing with security and that kind of thing, so they don't see the guns in his bag. I love it. It's done so well. She just jumps. And also when they're on the plane, it's great. They're on the plane. She's as his body. She goes onto the plane as Nathan Coyle, and then she it's a long haul flight, so she plays chess with someone sitting in seat D12 for a little bit. She wins quite easily because, you know, she's Kepler. She's like a couple of 100 years old. I call her a she, by the way, because it's never actually mentioned, not properly, but I'm assuming she's a she. So she plays chess with seat D12 and she wins because she's insanely clever. So then she gets bored and she jumps into the neighbour, whoever's sitting next to Nathan Coyle, so she can talk to Nathan. And she's like, "Do you play chess?" And he says, "Yeah, I play." And she's like, "Do you want to play against me? Like, I'll jump into seat D12 and we can play." And then he goes no for a variety of reasons. He's a bit pissed off that his body keeps getting violated by her and stuff like that. It's just scary. It's a really scary thought, is that someone could just jump into your body and then you blink. It's a completely different time period. Like, I thought it was really clever. There's the one bit where a king hires Kepler to be his daughter, to sort of set his daughter on the right path, because she's quite rebellious and she's supposed to be a princess, and you know she doesn't want to be, and that's not how she lives. So he hires her to be her daughter for 6 months and set her onto the right path and find the right suitors, and you know, wealthy men and that kind of thing. Man, it is so good. If you've sat through this whole video without reading this and you didn't mind it being spoiled, please just go read it. Like, I can't, there's not, just go read it. I cannot recommend this book anymore. It's second, I think it's my second favourite book of all time, and the first one is the other one written by Claire North. It's the first 15 Lives of Harry August. So overall, it got an 8.5 out of 10 for me, because it was beautiful. Whenever I was working, I just wanted to go on my break so I could read it more. And whenever I finished my break, I just wanted to go home so I could read it more. Honestly, really, really enjoyed the book. I mean, the ending was a bit sort of Laffy-Daffy. It was a bit kind of dreamy. I mean, it didn't end in a dream or anything like that, but there aren't really that many other ways Claire North could have ended it. So yeah, it was good. I don't know, the ending was a bit like letting go of a balloon. It kind of goes rather than popping, but it was good. It was really good. Honestly, I really enjoyed. Don't let that deter you, because I really enjoyed this book. Yeah, there you go.